I'm here with retired coach Bob Rymer of Menomonee Falls. Bob is a Hall of Fame coach whose teams have won numerous state championships. Bob, can you talk about your journey into running, beginning in high school, on into college, and then into the start of your coaching career?
Okay, I everything began in 1963. Um, my goal in high school was to earn a varsity letter, and I had been through basketball and baseball, and I could see that baseball was going to be sitting on the bench end of my junior year, and I'd already gone through basketball without lettering, so I decided the track coach, Mr. Pierman, had always bugged me about going out for track, so I decided to try it.
Can I interrupt you a second? What high school was that?
Preble. It was Preble, but now it's part of Green Bay, so it's now Green Bay Preble. But every kid in my family went through Preble, or in my brothers and sisters. But so I went out for track and I tried everything. And finally, he sent me with the distance runners on a 4 mile run, and I significantly beat them all back to school by the time we got done with the 4 miles. So I decided this is where I belonged, and I was the miler for my junior year and earned my varsity letter, which I'd been working on. The next year, they started cross country for the first time because a teacher got dumped her nephew with her, who was in trouble back in the school he was at. So he got sent to Auntie, and they started a cross country because he was a good distance runner. And so we had a cross country team for the first time, and we had three really good, another friend of mine and this kid, and the three of us kind of dominated the Green Bay area in cross country. So that's where I got started in found out about what cross country was. Then in the spring I ran track again, and then in '64 I went to Carroll College and on an academic, and I wasn't planning on running cross country at all. I had spent the whole summer working in the vegetable garden, so I was in shape, physical wise, but I didn't do any running. And a kid that had competed against me also was there from Green Bay, Roger Larson, and he said, "Well, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'm out for cross country," and I was a pole vaulter. He said, "You should come out for cross country." So he dragged me over to Cliff Eady's house, and the next day I was at cross country practice, and that's where I got going. And then there were two guys on the team, Gary McTrusty and Jerry Ruckert, who were really good runners. And Jerry, we ran, and I faced 13th in the conference meet in the CCIW. And then the next year, the three of us ran really well, and we placed 4, 5, and 6 in the conference meet, but still took 5th because we didn't have any other runners. So that was my start in college. Some of my things, I have a picture of it. I ran barefoot for some of the meets. If the terrain was such that I could run barefoot, I felt a lot better without shoes on than I did with shoes on. So I had fun doing that. The next 2 years, I was the lead person, and I had no clue about what was going on. We also didn't have the same coach because Cliff Eady's had to take over the department head, and we got the fired basketball coach who was he ran a liquor store in town, and he had no clue what was going on. So I was actually the coach, and so I just did the things we did the years before, and and then met Earl Jewett my senior year. He came to Carroll to run, and so we had a really good individual runner to run with, but by that time I'd kind of lost my enthusiasm for it because of the lack of coaching. So in '68, Menomonee Falls was a very fast-growing community, and they came to Carroll College looking for people to teach. And being a person who was going to need a job, I decided, well, maybe this is where I should go. So I went to Menomonee Falls, got a job teaching 8th grade math they were going to split schools the next year. So no, there would be opportunities to go to the high school and teach is where I wanted to teach math in high school. But that spring, they needed another track coach because of the number of kids that they had out. So I went in, and Milt Blake, who was the athletic director, gave me a chance, and I got hired as an assistant track coach in '69. And but 34 years later, I was still an assistant track coach, with 3 years as the head coach for a while, but I didn't like that at all. But then the next year when they split schools, they needed new coaches. And thanks to Bill Erdman, who had developed a really good program in the Falls for cross country, decided to be a department head, and they wouldn't let department heads be head coaches. So I ended up getting the head coaching job at Menomonee Falls North, and it went on from there. Yeah, Steve Stinzy was just to let you know, the team that Bill Erdman would have had if they hadn't split schools would have been a contender for the state championship that fall. Well, when we split schools, we each got 3 of the top 6. Okay, I mean, there were 2 guys who were really close together, Mark Riceweber and Steve Stinzy. I got Stinzy, East got Riceweber, I got Pat Delaney, they got Herb Gross or something, and I can't even right now remember the names of the 3, but we each got 3 of the top 6. And I took my group, and Steve would have been the state champion, but he sprained his ankle in Phi Ed class playing pickup basketball the week of the state meet, so he limped to an 11th place finish at the state meet after winning every meet he went to during the season. Then. We also had double duels in the conference, and we went 7-2. There were 10 teams, and we went 7-2 in duels. But then when you ran the conference meet at the end, the winner got 3 times the points. So we won the conference meet by 1 point over Nicolay, and in the process beat Nicolay in total points by 1. So it was an exciting first year. But still did not know what I know now today as far as coaching. I just was living on things that I had read and also observed as a coach, and so I was one of those that at the beginning that I just kind of stood around and waited for them to come back if they went on a distance run, and I had no clue who all went the whole distance or whatever. But I trusted that they were doing what I asked them to do. After a few years, I learned that I was out of shape, and so I started running with them, and eventually I actually became a runner myself, and actually ran faster than I did in college.
The other thing, if you want to talk, I mean, obviously Steve Stinzy, I remember. And I'm quite certain that was his senior year, and he had that great race against Rudy Alvarez and won the state 3,200.
Yep.
And but you've had probably more state champions individually than anyone that I know of in Division One, and you had 3 state championships on numerous close battles with Stevens Point primarily, and where he finished runner-up. Do you want to talk about some of those? I think that was kind of in the 80s.
Okay, so in cross country, we had, well, it wasn't too bad he sprained his ankle, but Steve Stinzy would have been the first, but he turned around and won the 2 mile in track, which was the initial 2 mile that they added to the track state championship. 9:15 flat, and then that record stood for a couple of years because Rudy Alvarez, who finished second, ran and won the meet the next year, but he ran 9:15.1, which it was kind of whatever. But and then after that it was Axel Meyer won the next 2 mile one. He was 74, I think, 1974, and he was a surprise. Because the kid from Racine Case, one of Bill Greiten's kids, was picked to be the winner, and he wasn't even close to Axel by the time they got done, because Axel had run 4:19 in the mile, but opted not to run it at the state meet and just run the 2. And then after that, I think Jim Stinzy won the 2, Jeff Hacker won the 2, Tim Hacker won the mile. Trying to think. Bill Hacker won the 2 mile in track.
And in cross country,
then Jim Stinzy was the first one to run and win. he got hurt his junior year, or he'd have won two, but he got a stress fracture in the foot his junior year, and didn't complete the season. But Jim, and then Jeff won the state two in a row, and then Tim won two in a row. Bill Hacker won a state championship. Yeah, and then we finished second in '75, first in '76, second in '77, second in '78, second in '79, second in '80. Didn't get to go in '81 because that was the year they only sent the sectional champion. And we won. We were second again in '82, and then after that it was soccer became a bigger sport, and it got tougher and tougher to get kids to the good runners to be in cross country because boys soccer was in the fall. But my other is that I was the head coach in track for 3 years when I decided nobody didn't look like anybody else wanted it, and so I decided, well, I'll take over, and we finished second in the state track meet. My second year, was it? It was Jim Stinsley's senior year. He won the mile and the 2 mile, and Jeff Hacker was a sophomore. He placed in the mile.
What are the major changes in the sport? I mean, you would have come in kind of into the dawn of the running boom, if the running boom was early mid '70s or so.
But interval training was the big one. We did that just about religiously for every Thursday. But back when we had those double duels, it was a little tough because you had to run a meet on Tuesday, and then if you got an invitational on the weekend, it was kind of tough to do just how much training can you do. But we got through it. But yes, one of the big things in Menomonee Falls when I got there is we had the middle school had 2 phy ed teachers that ran a running program in the fall, like cross country, and that's when kids in the community found out if they could run or not. And so I think a lot of that had to do with the Stinseys and the Hackers and other kids learning that they, instead of playing football, hey, I'm better than anybody else at running, just like I did when I was in high school. And once you find something that you're better than somebody else at in athletics as a boy, I think you gravitate to that. Yeah, there were lots of things. I mean, but then clinics weren't there, and so that was one of the other things that I did for 40 years was run the Wisconsin Cross Country Coaches Clinic, and that's when Bill Greiton and Joe Vetrano and I decided that we needed to help the coaches in the state of Wisconsin because there was no place for them to get good information and good ideas and learn from people who experienced all these things. So 1979, I think it was, we started clinics and continued to do it until 2019, and that was 17 years after I retired from coaching and teaching. I was still helping the coaches in the state of Wisconsin to become better, and when we started doing that, that's what I think now we made everybody a better coach. And so
it was a sharing of high school coaches, but I remember Jack Daniels, Joe Vigil. I mean, these are two of the all-time best coaches in the world, and not just regionally. And the clinic we've had the athletes, and after the University of Wisconsin, all their successes, and Mick Byrne came down and talked, and all those people. You somehow really had a connection to Pipeline to get those people to come and speak.
Well, the Pipeline was Bill Greiton. Bill Greiton actually was the Forrest and Peter Hinckus. They were our ones who knew these people actually and could not Vigil. Greiton knew him almost personally, but I also met some of these people because I went to a lot of NCAA national cross country meets and Olympic trials. And when we would go to those, Bill had this knack of just going up to some of these guys and start to talk to them and say, well, we've got this clinic back in Wisconsin, and we're wondering if you'd be interested in coming and talking. And so all of a sudden, here they are. They're willing, and they weren't charging us probably the going rate either, because we were a cross country group and not a big track organization. They were willing to come and speak and as I said, not charge us an arm and a leg to do it. So we were very fortunate. And then probably proudest I am of the whole state of Wisconsin, because back then in the 70s, all the good runners in Wisconsin went to Wisconsin. I mean, one year they won the national championship, and 5 out of the 7 kids on the team were all from the state of Wisconsin. And when Jeff Hacker was in the kingpin in cross country, I sat down with Jeff one day at practice, and I said, Jeff, we can't go to every meet and run your guts out. I said, you'll waste the season and not have anything left for the end of the season. So we reeled it in. And the other thing is because of our success, every good coach in the area was lining their teams up at meets where we were. And so all of a sudden, Oak Creek, who has Rodriguez, they're at every meet that we're going to go to. They're there. And so I said, Jeff, we're not going to go and try to beat Rodriguez every meet. And so to this day, Al Rodriguez would beat Jeff on one meet, and the next meet Jeff would beat him. And he couldn't figure out why he could do it one meet and why he couldn't do it on the others. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that it was a plan, because if you're going to be ready for the big one at the end of the season, you can't be running all out every week and have something left. And so when we got to the end of the season, Jeff ran away with the state meet. Nobody was even close to him, but only because we held him out. And the same thing with Tim. When he was his freshman year, I think it was. Their freshman year, I wasn't planning on having them run, and then we had injuries, and so then I moved Joe and Tim up to the varsity because they were capable, but I just thought we could get away without it. And so I moved them up there, and we ran Tim at the conference meet. But then when we went to the regional, I held him out because he was young, and I felt he didn't finish real well at that one, and so he didn't run the regional. We ended up winning by 1 point, but still won. And then he went to sectional state, and we ended up second in the state, and only because those 2 freshmen ran that year. Dave Hacker was another one that he was a freshman when we won the state meet in '76, so he didn't get a chance to run because didn't need him. But then he ran on the team the next three years, and as a senior he placed 4th in the state. And Joe was 3rd and Tim was 1st, and we still took 2nd place because at the state meet you have all those individuals, and if you look at the state meet results, we didn't gain hardly any points at all with those 3 going 1, 3, 4, because the other team got their runners in while there were other individuals that yanked out, and so the point difference wasn't that big. So but they were just the biggest disappointed guy was Dave, because he ran such a great race and got 4th place, and we still end up in 2nd place. He threw his shoes about 100 yards out into the course when we got done, because he was not a happy camper, but he got over it.
Well, I don't think anyone would deny that the Hackers weren't one of the most competitive families probably in the entire state. Switching gears on here a little bit. Also, you and Bill and Joe Vetrano and Pete Hinckus and I think Jim Kearney too.
Jim Kearney
on the clinic, but
Chuck Bradley.
And Chuck Bradley, yes. And you also started the Hall of Fame around 1990 or so?
90. It's on the wall over there. 93, I think it was. 92 or 93. Yeah, and we made the mistake of inducting like 12 people, and the induction took forever. And I was one of them late in the program, and I just my acceptance speech took a
The esprit de corps of the sport, the education, raising the level of knowledge, the knowledge level and training level, and you know, we also started the all-state teams.
Yep.
And awards for that, and not just the okay, here are the six here are the 6 or 7 kids that are going to get all state medals, but it was a first team, a second team, and an honorable mention, and you had district coaches of the year. I mean, it was an award system that I think was needed, and it was so well appreciated by all the coaches.
Well, yeah, and when I started, they had one award. One coach got coach of the year at the end of the state meet, and I got a couple of them. But it just, as we went along, we started the conference certificates. That was one of the first. I think that was first things that we did. But yes, we just kept adding as we went along. We just kept thinking of other areas that we could, and the clinic was able to, with the increased membership and the clinic coming out ahead for a while, we were able to create enough funds that we could fund all those awards. And yes, so Mike, I'd like thanks for the chance to let everybody get to know maybe who I was or whatever. But yes, I enjoyed all 33 years of coaching cross country, 34 years of assisting in track. Still follow it, as I said, still an official. But the other thing is attendance of state track meets and cross country meets. I've missed one state since 1969. I've missed one state track meet, and that was just a couple of years ago. And then cross country, I think I might have missed one in the whole realm of things. Plus, I was the jury of appeals for many years after retiring from coaching, because I was still part of the association. So, official. But I wouldn't have traded my life at this point for all the tea in China, except for
no. I just on behalf of all the coaches, I really want to thank you for all your contributions, a lifetime of contributions to both cross country and track, and as an educator, and and you're going to continue, I'm sure.